In 1867, the United States government spent over $7 million on a piece of land that almost every newspaper in the country called a joke. They called it Seward's Icebox, Seward's Folly, a frozen, worthless wasteland that America had just paid a fortune for no reason anyone could understand. That land was Alaska, and the man who bought it would spend the rest of his career being mocked for what many called the worst political decision in American history. Except it wasn't a mistake at all. It would turn out to be one of the most consequential land deals of the 19th century, and almost nobody involved fully understood why at the time. To understand this story, you have to start not in Washington, but in St. Petersburg. By the 1850s, Russia had controlled Alaska for decades through a state-run fur trading operation. But by the mid-19th century, that business was collapsing. Sea otters, the main source of the valuable fur trade, had been hunted to near extinction across much of the territory. The colony was costing the Russian government far more to maintain than it was earning. Then came a bigger problem. Russia had just lost the Crimean War, a brutal and expensive conflict against Britain, France, and the Ottoman Empire. The war had exposed just how militarily weak Russia's overseas territories really were. Alaska sat directly next to British-controlled Canada, and Russian officials became convinced that in any future war, Britain's powerful navy could simply seize Alaska without any real resistance, and Russia would lose it for nothing. So Tsar Alexander II reached a cold, calculated conclusion. Better to sell the territory to a friendly power now for a real price than risk losing it for free in a future war. And there was one country Russia specifically wanted as the buyer: the United States. Russia had stayed friendly with America during the Crimean War, while Britain and France had been Russia's enemies. Selling Alaska to the US would strengthen an ally, and just as importantly, keep it out of British hands forever. On the American side, the deal rested almost entirely on one man: Secretary of State William Seward. Seward was one of the most experienced statesmen in Washington. He had served as governor of New York and had come close to winning the Republican presidential nomination that Abraham Lincoln ultimately won in 1860. As Secretary of State, Seward held a bold, expansionist vision for the United States. He believed America's future greatness depended on extending its reach across the entire North American continent and eventually into the Pacific. When the Russian minister in Washington quietly signaled that Russia was open to selling Alaska, Seward moved fast. In March 1867, negotiations happened almost entirely overnight. The two sides agreed on a price: $7.2 million, a little under 2 cents per acre for a landmass roughly twice the size of Texas. Seward signed the treaty at 4 a.m, reportedly so eager to finalize the deal before anyone in either government could change their mind. But when the news reached the American public, the reaction was brutal. Newspapers across the country tore the deal apart. Editorial cartoons mocked Seward buying a polar bear garden. Critics called Alaska a frozen wasteland of ice and walruses, a useless purchase that would drain the treasury for nothing in return. Part of the backlash came from simple ignorance. Almost nobody in Washington had any real information about Alaska's geography, climate, or resources. Part of it came from timing. The deal happened just 2 years after the end of the Civil War, when the country was exhausted, broke, and rebuilding, and many Americans saw $7 million spent on frozen tundra as an insult to more urgent priorities at home.
The nickname that stuck the hardest was Seward's Folly, a phrase that would follow him for the rest of his life and for decades afterward define how Americans remembered the purchase.
Even in Congress, the treaty barely survived. It required a 2/3 vote in the Senate to be ratified, and while it ultimately passed by a wide margin, largely because senators respected Seward personally and saw strategic value in denying the territory to Britain, funding to actually pay for the purchase stalled in the House of Representatives for over a year, held up by skeptical lawmakers who saw no value in the deal at all. It would take political maneuvering and reportedly some outright bribery of newspaper editors and congressmen by Russian officials eager to make sure the sale went through before the House finally approved the funding in 1868. For about 30 years, the mockery seemed justified. Alaska generated little obvious economic return, and most Americans simply forgot about it. Then, in 1896, gold was discovered in the Yukon region, near the Alaska border, triggering the massive Klondike Gold Rush. Tens of thousands of prospectors flooded north through Alaska's ports, and the territory suddenly became the gateway to one of the richest gold rushes in American history. That was only the beginning. Through the 20th century, Alaska revealed resource after resource that dwarfed the original $7 million price tag. Enormous fish and timber industries, strategic military value during World War II and the Cold War. Alaska sits closer to Russia than almost any other part of the United States, making it a critical early warning and defense position throughout the entire Cold War. And finally, in 1968, the discovery of one of the largest oil fields ever found in North America at Prudhoe Bay. That single oil field alone would go on to generate value estimated in the hundreds of billions of dollars over the following decades, a number that makes the original purchase price look almost meaningless by comparison. Alaska became a state in 1959. And today, it's recognized as one of the most strategically and economically valuable pieces of territory the United States has ever acquired. Here's the strange twist that most people miss. Even though Russia's decision to sell looks, in hindsight, like a catastrophic loss, Alaska's later fortune in gold, oil, and strategic value, it's important to remember what Russia was actually solving for in 1867. They weren't trying to maximize long-term profit from a colony they had no realistic ability to defend or develop. They were trying to avoid losing the territory for free to a rival empire, while gaining cash and cementing a friendly relationship with a rising American power. By that measure, the sale actually achieved exactly what Russia wanted. What nobody in either government could have predicted was just how much value was sitting underneath that frozen tundra. Value that had nothing to do with the political calculations either side was making at the time. Seward, for his part, never publicly regretted the deal, even as the mockery followed him for the rest of his career. He reportedly said that the criticism would fade once people understood the real value of what had been purchased. And decades later, in a way he could never have fully predicted, he was proven right beyond anything he might have imagined. Today, Seward's Folly is remembered as one of the greatest bargains in American history, a joke that turned into one of the smartest long-term investments any government has ever made. But at the time, nobody could have known that. It was a decision made in the dark, based on incomplete information, mocked by nearly everyone who heard about it, and vindicated only by decades of hindsight. It's a reminder that some of history's biggest turning points don't look like turning points at all when they happen. They look like mistakes, until the world eventually proves otherwise. If you want to see the next chapter, the Klondike Gold Rush that first proved the skeptics wrong? Let me know in the comments. And subscribe for more stories from the political decisions that shaped the world.